What happens when a dress does more than make headlines? What if a single outfit could shake studios, rewrite careers, and follow an actress for the rest of her life? Old Hollywood sold glamour, but behind the glitter were moments when fabric crossed an invisible line. Halfway between daring and disaster, these dresses didn't just turn heads. They changed everything, and some of them carried consequences no one saw coming. Stay close, because one of these fashion moments didn't just spark whispers, it quietly rewrote history. Number 15. Anne-Margret. The dress that made everyone hold their breath. 1964. Anne-Margret arrived in Hollywood with energy no one could ignore. She sang, she danced, she moved like the camera owed her money. But in 1964, during promotions tied to her rise as a musical star, one fitted stage dress pushed her image into unfamiliar territory. The dress clung closely, shimmering under bright lights. It moved when she moved, and that was the problem. Studio executives preferred their stars lively but controlled. Anne-Margret's outfit suggested confidence that couldn't be boxed in. Cameras lingered. Critics hesitated. Fans stared. The moment mattered because it collided with expectations. She wasn't supposed to look that bold, not yet, not like that, and especially not while sharing the spotlight with already established male icons. Suddenly, the conversation shifted away from her talent and toward her appearance. Behind the scenes, pressure followed. Her wardrobe was adjusted. Her image carefully softened in future appearances. The dress never broke a rule on paper, but it bent several unwritten ones. Anne-Margret survived the moment because she was resilient, but that dress marked the first time Hollywood realized it couldn't fully manage her. It was a warning shot in silk, and once fired, nothing felt quite the same again. Number 14. Eartha Kitt. The fitted gowns that cost more than applause. Late 1950s. Eartha Kitt never dressed to disappear. Her gowns hugged, flowed, and moved with intention. In the late 1950s, her stage outfits were sleek and unapologetic, designed to command attention the moment she stepped into a room. But Hollywood wasn't ready for that level of presence, especially from her. Her dresses became conversation starters, not because they broke rules, but because they challenged comfort. High slits, sculpted lines, fabric that followed her shape instead of hiding it. The reaction was immediate and uneven. Applause from audiences, unease from industry power players. What made the dresses controversial wasn't skin, it was confidence. Eartha Kitt didn't ask permission. She didn't soften herself, and Hollywood noticed. Soon, doors closed quietly. Invitations slowed. Roles vanished. Her fashion choices were never officially blamed, but they were never forgotten either. Image mattered then, and hers refused to be simplified. Years later, those same gowns would be praised as bold and timeless. But at the time, they carried a price. Eartha Kitt didn't lose her voice. She lost access, and her dresses became symbols of what happens when style refuses to stay in its assigned lane. Number 13. Jayne Mansfield. The gowns that refused to stay ignored. 1950s. Jayne Mansfield understood attention better than most. In the 1950s, her wardrobe choices were not accidents. They were statements designed to pull focus wherever she went. Her dresses were tight, low-cut, and impossible to overlook. One particular evening appearance turned into legend when her gown seemed moments away from doing more than expected. Cameras flashed, faces reacted. The image traveled faster than explanations ever could. The impact was immediate. Headlines followed her instead of her work. Interviews became jokes. Serious roles drifted away. Jayne became known less for her acting and more for what she wore. What made her dresses scandalous wasn't fabric, it was repetition. Over time, Hollywood decided that was all she was allowed to be. The industry stopped offering balance. It offered a box. Jayne leaned into it because resisting would have meant disappearing. But leaning in came with a cost. Respect faded. Opportunities narrowed. Her dresses worked. They delivered attention every time, but they also rewrote how she was seen. In the end, the gowns didn't fail her. Hollywood failed to see beyond them. Number 12. Lana Turner. The sweater that changed everything, early 1940s. Lana Turner didn't expect her career to pivot because of a sweater. But in the early 1940s, a fitted knit top worn casually became one of Hollywood's most talked about wardrobe moments. It wasn't a costume, it wasn't a movie scene, it was everyday clothing photographed at the wrong time. The fabric followed her shape closely, and suddenly that image mattered more than her performances. The studio noticed, the press noticed, audiences noticed. Overnight, Lana's image shifted. She was marketed differently, styled differently, offered different roles. The sweater turned her into a symbol she hadn't chosen. Hollywood loved the attention but struggled with the consequences. Her talent became secondary in conversations. The clothing took over the narrative. Lana adapted because survival required it, but the sweater never let go. It followed her into roles, interviews, and expectations. That moment proved something uncomfortable. You didn't need a dramatic gown to cause a stir. Sometimes the most disruptive outfit looked ordinary, and that made it even harder to control. Number 11. Mae West. The dresses that forced Hollywood to rewrite the rulebook, early 1930s. Mae West didn't break fashion rules. She exposed how fragile they were. In the early 1930s, her dresses were fitted, dramatic, and deliberately eye-catching. Long before others dared, Mae used clothing as punctuation. Every curve was intentional. Every silhouette carried attitude. Censors panicked. Studios hesitated. Audiences lined up anyway. Her outfits became part of her persona. They suggested independence at a time when that made people uneasy. Mae didn't apologize. She doubled down. And the more resistance she met, the more confident she became. Eventually, Hollywood responded the only way it knew how. It tightened restrictions. New guidelines appeared. Wardrobe departments were suddenly monitored more closely. Mae West forced that change. Her dresses didn't just shock. They triggered systems designed to prevent others from following. She kept working, kept speaking, kept dressing exactly as she pleased. The legacy is clear. When Mae West walked into a room, fabric followed her lead, and Hollywood never fully recovered from that confidence. Number 10. Sophia Loren. The gown that made a look famous, 1957. Sophia Loren was already admired for her presence, but one fitted evening gown in 1957 turned her into a permanent image. The dress hugged closely, structured to follow movement rather than hide it. It wasn't designed to shock. It shocked because of timing. Hollywood was still unsure how to handle confidence that didn't ask permission. Sophia wore the gown to a high-profile gathering, and the camera found her instantly. What followed was one of the most replayed reaction shots in pop culture history. A glance, a pause, a moment frozen forever. The dress itself wasn't extreme. What made it unforgettable was how naturally she wore it. No hesitation, no adjustment. She stood comfortably while others reacted around her. The impact was immediate. The image traveled faster than context. Sophia became a reference point, a standard. Designers studied the cut. Actresses compared themselves to it. Behind the scenes, she remained focused. She refused to let clothing define her career alone. But the industry never forgot that moment. It became shorthand for elegance with authority. Sophia Loren didn't chase attention. The attention found her, and that gown proved that sometimes the strongest statement is simply standing still while the world looks twice. Number 9. Elizabeth Taylor. The slip dress that refused to stay private, early 1950s. Elizabeth Taylor grew up under studio lights. By the early 1950s, she was transitioning from youth roles into something more complex. One wardrobe choice accelerated that shift faster than planned. A satin slip-style dress, meant to feel understated and elegant, appeared on screen and off in ways the studio hadn't fully prepared for. The fabric moved lightly. The cut was simple, but simplicity can be disruptive when expectations are rigid. Audiences reacted strongly. Critics noticed. The dress suggested maturity without spectacle, and that unsettled the careful pacing Hollywood preferred. The The studio adjusted quickly. Publicity shifted. Roles followed the image rather than the performer. Elizabeth adapted because she always had to, but the moment marked a turning point. What made the dress controversial wasn't exposure, it was implication. It suggested a woman choosing her presence rather than being styled into it. Elizabeth Taylor would go on to redefine glamour repeatedly, but this dress was the first signal that she would not remain contained. It proved something important. Sometimes the quietest outfits create the loudest reactions, and once that door opens, it never fully closes again. Number 8. Brigitte Bardot. The dress that made rules feel optional. 1956. Brigitte Bardot arrived like a question Hollywood didn't know how to answer. In 1956, one simple dress worn during her rise challenged everything American studios thought they understood about presentation. The dress was light, short, and effortless. It looked casual. That was the problem. Bardot wore it without concern. No stiff posture, no careful angles. She moved freely. The effect was immediate. Audiences felt something shift. This wasn't calculated glamour. It was ease, and ease frightened an industry built on control. The dress made headlines, not because of what it showed, but because of what it ignored. Bardot didn't adjust herself to the camera adjusted to her. Hollywood scrambled to copy the feeling without understanding it. Designers tried, studios failed. Brigitte Bardot didn't need permission, and that dress proved it. She changed fashion by accident, or maybe by instinct. Either way, the message was clear. You don't always need spectacle to disrupt a system. Sometimes comfort alone is revolutionary. Number 7. Ava Gardner. The backless gown that started whispers. 1946. Ava Gardner had presence before she had power. In 1946, a backless evening gown worn at a public appearance changed how she was viewed almost overnight. The dress revealed less than people remember, but the idea of it traveled far. A bare back was unusual then. The suggestion mattered more than reality. Photographs circulated. Conversations followed. The industry reacted with caution. Ava's image shifted. She was no longer just a rising star. She became a topic. Studios leaned into it carefully, knowing attention could turn unstable quickly. Privately, pressure mounted, relationships strained, expectations multiplied. The gown didn't cause chaos. It revealed how quickly admiration could turn into fixation. Ava Gardner handled it with calm strength. She didn't retreat. She didn't apologize. That dress marked the moment Hollywood realized she could not be managed easily. And once that realization sets in, everything changes. Number 6. Rita Hayworth. The photograph that followed her everywhere. 1941. Rita Hayworth worked relentlessly for her place. In 1941, a single photographed outfit transformed her into an image that would never let her rest. The garment was soft, styled for intimacy rather than display. The pose was calm. The impact was enormous. The image traveled far beyond its intention. It became symbolic, reproduced endlessly, talked about constantly. Rita gained admiration and lost privacy at the same time. The industry celebrated the attention while ignoring the cost. She was expected to maintain an image she hadn't planned to become permanent. Years later, Rita spoke openly about how the world wanted a version of her that didn't exist in real life. That outfit didn't define her talent, but it shaped how she was treated. It proved something painful. When an image becomes larger than the person inside it, escape becomes nearly impossible. Number 5. Josephine Baker. The costume that shocked Europe before Hollywood could catch up. 1926. Before Hollywood knew what to do with her, Josephine Baker was already changing the rules elsewhere. In 1926, she stepped onto a Paris stage wearing an outfit that barely resembled traditional performance clothing. It moved when she moved. It followed rhythm instead of restraint. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Audiences didn't just watch, they stared. Critics struggled to explain what they were seeing. Fashion writers called it daring. Cultural leaders called it disruptive. What made the costume powerful wasn't its design alone, it was timing. Baker appeared at a moment when the world was hungry for something unfamiliar. She delivered it without hesitation. Hollywood observed from a distance. When she later returned to American attention, the industry didn't quite know where to place her. The boldness that made her famous also made studios uneasy. Josephine Baker understood the moment better than anyone. She didn't stay trapped in one image. She used attention strategically and moved on. That costume didn't just make history, it announced a new kind of performer, one who understood that fashion could be movement, message, and momentum all at once. Number 4. Marilyn Monroe. The white dress that refused to stay quiet. 1955. Few dresses have outlived their moment like this one. In 1955, Marilyn Monroe stood above a city grate wearing a simple white dress. The fabric lifted, the cameras rolled. History followed. The scene wasn't meant to define her, it did anyway. Crowds gathered, flashbulbs exploded, the image spread faster than explanation. The dress became a symbol overnight. What made it controversial wasn't shock, it was visibility. Marilyn was already famous, but this moment fixed her in public memory permanently. Privately, the attention caused strain. Relationships suffered. Pressure increased. Marilyn smiled through it all, even as expectations grew heavier. The dress followed her everywhere. It overshadowed performances. It simplified a complex woman into a single frame. Years later, that white dress remains instantly recognizable, but the cost of that recognition is often forgotten. Marilyn didn't design the moment to last forever. The world decided it should, and once it did, there was no turning back. Number 3. Marilyn Monroe. The gown that looked painted on. 1962. 7 years later, Marilyn Monroe wore another dress that made time slow down. In 1962, she stepped onto a stage wearing a fitted gown that seemed almost unreal under bright lights. The fabric was carefully chosen, the fit precise, the effect unforgettable. The dress shimmered subtly, blending illusion and confidence in a way cameras struggled to capture properly. From a distance, it looked effortless. Up close, it was meticulously crafted. The moment became legendary instantly. Headlines followed, conversations exploded, but the timing mattered. Marilyn was already under intense pressure. The dress didn't cause it, but it amplified everything. Afterward, her public appearances became rarer. The attention shifted from admiration to speculation. That gown marked one of her final major public moments. It wasn't just fashion, it became a closing chapter many didn't recognize at the time. The dress didn't harm her, but it became inseparable from the weight she was already carrying. Sometimes an outfit becomes unforgettable, not because of what it shows, but because of when it appears. Number 2. Theda Bara. The costume that vanished, but never lost its reputation. 1917. Long before sound or color, Theda Bara shocked audiences with costumes that felt impossible for their time. In 1917, her film appearance included elaborate outfits that pushed boundaries silently but forcefully. The designs were dramatic, jewelry heavy, shapes unfamiliar. Audiences were fascinated and unsettled at the same time. Most of her films no longer exist. Fires erased them. Studios moved on, but descriptions remained. What survived was reputation. Stories of daring costumes passed through generations, even without images to prove them. Theda Bara became myth as much as actress. Her wardrobe choices were remembered as bold, even when no one could see them anymore. Hollywood learned something from her. Fashion could define memory, even after the work itself disappeared. Her costumes weren't just clothing, they were atmosphere, presence, impact. Even without footage, her influence lingered, and that alone proves how powerful those designs were. Number 1. Jean Harlow. The gown that started it all. 1933. Jean Harlow didn't plan to change fashion history. In 1933, she wore a fitted gown that clung closely and moved with her body instead of against it. The effect stunned audiences. The fabric seemed poured on. The cut felt daring for its time. Hollywood reacted instantly. Some praised it. Others panicked. The dress didn't break a rule. It exposed how fragile the rules were. Jean Harlow became a symbol of a new kind of glamour, one that didn't hide behind layers. Her career was brief, but her influence wasn't. That gown reshaped expectations. Designers followed, actresses noticed. The moment mattered because it happened early, before safeguards tightened, before control systems adjusted. Jean Harlow opened a door others would walk through carefully later. Her dress didn't just make headlines, it rewired how Hollywood thought about fabric, form, and fear. So, next time someone tells you old Hollywood played it safe, remember this list. These dresses weren't just fabric and thread. They were moments that shifted careers, sparked reactions, and rewrote rules without asking permission. Some brought fame, some brought pressure. All of them left a mark. Now, tell me, which outfit surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts below, subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories, and share this with someone who thinks fashion is just decoration. Sometimes it changes everything.